One, two, three. Six, seven, one more. 8.
The Unitarian Church of Montpelier is located on Western Abenaki land, which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous peoples. The Unitarian Church of Montpelier honors, recognizes, and respects these peoples as the traditional and ongoing stewards of the lands and waters on which we gather. In that same spirit, we will respect, protect, and be good stewards of this land for as long as we walk upon it. I'm Denise Bailey, a member of the UCM board. Thank you for joining us in this time of worship from wherever you are. Whether you are on Zoom, on Facebook, or watching the service on your own time, we deeply appreciate your presence and fellowship. The Unitarian Church of Montpelier is a Unitarian Universalist congregation founded in 1864. We are a religious community that welcomes all as we journey together seeking spiritual wholeness and justice in this world that we live in. Whether you are a newcomer, a longtime member, or somewhere in between, you are a part of our community and we are glad you are here. If you are joining us in Zoom, the chat function will be on for much of the service. It is a great way to publicly welcome and support one another, to affirm the hard work and effort of our worship team, and to share good vibes and positive thoughts with each other. For technical issues or constructive thoughts, please private message the Zoom host or join us for coffee hour after this service to share them there. Thank you to our virtual greeters who are offering hospitality and tech help throughout the service. Additionally, on Zoom, click on the live transcript button wherever it lives on your screen for increased accessibility. I invite you to take a moment now to turn your video on and go into gallery view on your Zoom screen. Let us greet our neighbors with a wave hello and a warm smile. Again, a warm welcome to each and every one of you. And now our ministerial intern, Vertus LaVar Robinson, will share a few announcements.
Good morning, everyone. Just a few announcements this morning. Today, you are invited to a sing-along with our very own Paula Gills at 12:30 in the churchyard on the north side of the building. Again, that's at 12:30, right after, well, an hour after the service. But please join us for a sing-along, and you can RSVP, and the link should be in the chat. To review our COVID guidelines, because we will be following them. But please join us. Also, this afternoon's Circle of Trees event, which is organized by the Lifespan Spiritual Exploration Team Committee, has been canceled. Liza Olcenters, our director of LSC, has to stay home as they wait testing results due to a COVID exposure. So Liza and the LSC committee do plan to offer an outdoor all ages event each third Sunday of the month for this fall. So stay tuned of what's being planned for November. Finally, please read the weekly e-newsletter to learn more about the many upcoming events in our church community. Now, let us enter more deeply into our time of worship with our prelude.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Eliza. Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Joan Javier Duval, she, her, minister of the Unitarian Church of Montpelier. Our opening words are written by Eric Wikstrom. We come together this morning because within us there is something that knows we need more than we can find in our aloneness. We know instinctively in the depths of ourselves that we need others for this journey of life, even though we also guard our independence and individuality quite jealously. So let us celebrate all that makes us unique, and yet all that makes us one. And let us dream dreams of all that we can do together. I invite you to join in singing our opening hymn, Winds Be Still, led by our UCM choir.
Let us now light the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. We invite you to light a chalice at home if you have one nearby.
We light this flame, enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. Please join us now in saying our congregational covenant.
We covenant to speak honestly and listen deeply to each other and the voice within. Treat each other with compassion and honor our differences. Take responsibility for the impact our words, actions, and inactions have on each other. Support each other in times of need and of grief, and celebrate the beauty and joy in our lives. Honor the gifts of the past and be gentle with each other as we grow. Encourage each other in the brave work of creating a more beloved community and a healthy, sustainable world. and forgive each other and start again.
Thank you so much. Our generosity is a form of love and gratitude. Our gifts freely given help us to practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation. Each month through the UCM Community Pouch program, we share part of our collection with an important church fund or a community organization aligned with our values. During the month of October, our Community Pouch recipient has been the Abenaki Helpin' Abenaki, the AHA. Your contribution to the Community Pouch this month will directly support this work. You can make a financial contribution today by donating online. Go to ucmvt.org and click Donate to UCM. There are options to contribute to the general fund, which supports the general operating budget of the church, the Community Pouch, or both. You can also mail a check to the church, or you can use our text to give option. Simply send a text message with the word give to 802-266-4848 and follow the instructions sent to you. We are so grateful to each and every one of you for your generosity and its many forms.
Good morning. Singing in a choir is a little like being in a relationship with 25 other people, with one of the most crucial skills being the willingness and ability to listen to others. Of course, singing in a pandemic, masked and 6 feet apart, makes that really hard. So what do? We work harder, we're gentle with ourselves and others, and we let our love and our intention carry us. The musical offering this morning is Sing Gently by Eric Whitacre. He wrote this for a virtual choir at the beginning of the pandemic. 17,000 singers from all over the world sent in their recordings. It begins with these lyrics. May we sing together always. May our voice be soft. May our singing be music for others, and may it keep others aloft. Here is the UCM choir recorded at the Capital City Grange Hall.
Thank you so much, choir and Danya and Eliza. We set aside time now in our service to share with one another those joys and concerns that we bring with us into this time of worship. You may be celebrating something special in your life that you'd like to share with all of us so that we can celebrate with you. Perhaps you're experiencing a challenge or a loss that you'd like to share so that we can offer our love and support. Susan Baker, our lay pastoral caregiver today, is available to lend a listening ear of care. She'll be available during coffee hour, and we'll also put her number in the chat for an after service call if you'd like. I'll invite you in just a moment to use the raised hand function in Zoom if you would like to speak out loud a joy or a concern. Virtus will then spotlight you in Zoom so that you can share, and I will be lighting a candle here in the sanctuary. Please keep in mind that we are live streaming this service to Facebook, and so whatever you share will be shared on that platform as well. Again, you can use the raised hand function on Zoom to indicate that you'd like to speak. You can also type the word share into the chat if you're not able to find that raised hand function. If you prefer, you can share your joys and concerns in the chat itself so that we can offer our love and support there. I will light a candle for all of those joys, concerns, and sorrows that are being shared in the Zoom chat, in the Facebook comments, and that are being held in the silence of our hearts this morning.
Now, I invite you to create an atmosphere of prayer with me this morning. You can close your eyes if you desire. You can place your hand over your heart, breathing deeply with intention, whatever is comfortable for you. Our prayer this morning is adapted from the words of the Reverend Lynn Cox. Spirit of life and love, the God of our own understandings, who draws us together in the web of holy relationships. Make your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are truly not alone. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain and fear. Comfort us with your Spirit manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. We hold in our hearts the beauty, the grief, and the pain of those who have lived the experience of homelessness and those who are standing with them right now at the State House lawn. We are all standing with them and with you all in this work and in this effort. May we all hold them in our hearts and in this prayer this morning. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with the everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice. Source of stars and planets and water and land, open our hearts to all of our neighbors, open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So be it. Blessed be, Ashe, and amen. Now please join us in a brief time of quiet meditation, after which we will sing together, Spirit of Life.
There's a folk tale that comes from the country of Ethiopia in East Africa. In its many retellings, the exact plot has some variations, and the characters are slightly different. At the core of this story is the need to bring two people together whose relationship is strained. As the story goes, a woman married a man in her village whose first wife died. We'll call her Ayel. And the man has a young son who is heartbroken over his mother's death. Ayel is eager to win over her new stepson. She speaks softly to him, but he turns away. She prepares delicious meals for him, but he refuses to eat. She sews him a new pair of pants, but he refuses to wear them. This goes on for several months, and Ayel doesn't know what to do. Ayel's village has a healer, a medicine man to whom people turn when they are sick or hurt. And usually Ayel tried to solve her problems on her own, but this time she goes to the healer to ask for help. Ayel approached the healer's hut, saw that the door was open. "I can hear you at the door," he said. "Come in." "What's the trouble?" Ayel introduced herself and explained the situation. "Make me a potion or an amulet," she said, "anything to make the child respond to me." The healer thought this over, and after a few moments, he said, I can make you a potion, but this potion requires a special ingredient that will be dangerous to secure. You must bring me the whisker of a living lion. Ayel was shocked, but agreed to bring back the whisker. And that night she tossed and she turned, thinking of how it was she was going to acquire the whisker from a live lion. The next day, she left the house with a bowl of meat. She went to a small stand of trees where a lion was known to live. And at the edge of the trees, she quietly set the bowl down on the grass and then backed away and returned home. The next day at the same time, she returned with another bowl of food. She saw that the bowl from the previous day was empty, and she set the new bowl down and again quietly left and went home. Ayel kept this up for months. She never saw the lion during this time, but she knew from the footprints on the ground that it was the lion eating the food. And then one day, Ayel arrived, and the lion was sitting and waiting for her at the spot where she brought the food. Ayel sat down. She placed the bowl of food before him and waited while the lion ate. And she decided that this was the right time to ask the lion for one of its whiskers. She reached out to gently pat the lion's head and said, "Oh, lion, I am in great need of one of your whiskers. May I please have one?" And the lion bowed its head slightly. Ayel plucked a whisker from its cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. Ayel laughed and quickly ran to the hut of the medicine man. "I have it, I have it, I have the lion's whisker." The medicine man greeted her as she entered. "You do, let me see it." And Ayel handed the whisker to him. The healer examined it and said, "You now have everything you need to earn the boy's love." And he threw the whisker into the fire. "What are you doing?" Ayel said. "Do you know how long it took me to get that whisker? How many bowls of food I brought to the lion?" "You do not need a potion to win your stepson's love," the healer said. "You now know what to do." Ayel thought about this and returned home. This is a sermon about trust. I'll admit that it scares me. My heart is actually kind of beating faster now. It scares me to make this claim. Trust is such a loaded word. And these days, just hearing the word trust might make you snicker. Who can you trust these days, you might think? According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, which measures levels of trust around the world for major societal institutions, most of us these days do not trust government leaders, journalists, CEOs, or religious leaders to do what is right. Trust can be so fragile. It is hard to build and harder to keep. And yet trust is vital to our relationships. Without trust, our relationships become brittle and easily come apart. Charles Feltman is a leader in organizational development, and in The Thin Book of Trust, he defines the act of trust as choosing to risk making something you value vulnerable to another person's action. When we trust another person, we are willing to make something important to us vulnerable to what they may do or say. I invite you to think for a moment about something you value that you have chosen to make vulnerable to another person's actions. Is it your health or your family's health? Is it your commitment to your work, your love of being in the outdoors, your need for a friend who listens well? Each day we are confronted with the question of whether we will choose to take the risk of making something or someone we value vulnerable to another's actions. From the microcosm of our own households or most intimate friendships, all the way out to our participation in the larger public life of community. This vulnerability is apparent to me each time I cross the street and there's a car coming down the road. It's even more apparent to me when my 7-year-old is with me. I tentatively step into the crosswalk and then wait to see if the car actually slows down before I go any farther. Maybe you notice this vulnerability when someone asks you the simple but loaded question, "How are you?" And the truth is not easy. The truth is you're feeling terrible. Do you risk sharing that with whomever may have just asked that innocent question? In the folktale I shared, Ayel chooses to take multiple risks of vulnerability, reaching out to her stepson, seeking the help of the healer, taming the lion, and returning home to try building the relationship yet again. Brene Brown, the social science researcher, professor, and writer, likens trust to a marble jar. She says that trust is built in small moments, and with each trustworthy moment, a marble goes in the jar. When the jar is full, we feel in our bones that we can really trust someone. And when trust is broken, many marbles come spilling out. Just think of that "how are you" moment. Maybe one day you decide to take a risk and to tell someone you don't know very well what's really going on in your life, that the cancer is back, that you just lost your job, that your kid has been homesick for far too many days and you are bone tired. That person listens attentively, shows empathy, and really hears you. That's a marble-worthy moment. We need to trust and to be trusted if we are to be in relationship with others. When we have trust, we are able to work towards common goals, to offer love and care in deeper ways, and to feel more secure in the world. And yet, to move towards trust can feel very risky, especially when the relationship is one that really matters. I experienced this not too long ago in a conversation I had with my brother. My brother had recently completed training as a law enforcement officer just before the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis and the subsequent protests across the country in the summer of 2020. My brother and I have a close and caring relationship and have often held starkly different opinions about things. We have engaged in lively conversations about religion and politics, topics that are often sensitive ones with family members. So when my brother called me up to talk about the interactions between police officers and protesters that summer, I wasn't surprised, but I was anxious about how that conversation might go. My brother and I viewed the unfolding events from very different perspectives. My sympathies were much more with the protesters. His sympathies were much more with the police officers. Throughout the conversation, my heart was racing. I wasn't in physical danger, but my body was having a stress response to a feeling of threat, the imagined threat that our relationship would not endure this difficult conversation. Two things felt important to me as we spoke: my own justice-based value system and also my relationship with my brother. Both of these felt like they were at risk in that moment, vulnerable. Our relationships with those we know well and love, but also with strangers, are riddled with moments of vulnerability that expose the potential for that relationship to either move into deeper connection and trust or to break. There are lots of very good reasons that we might determine that we're not ready to take the risk of vulnerability. Perhaps like Ayel's stepson in the folktale, you are deeply grieving and not yet ready for the emotional exposure of opening up. There may be power dynamics at play that are out of your control that create a potential for harm. Maybe you experienced behaviors of betrayal in your upbringing that severely distorted your sense of trust. And it is slow and painful work to be able to take the risk of trusting again. It is so important to the trust that we have in ourselves to have this awareness and to bring that into our relationships. Trust is complex. Brené Brown shares 7 elements of trust in her book, Dare to Lead, that I find helpful in really breaking down how trusting relationships are built. Number 1 is boundaries. You respect my boundaries, and when you're not clear about what's okay and not okay, you ask. You're willing to say no. Next is reliability. You do what you say you'll do. You don't overpromise, and you fulfill your commitments. Accountability. You own your mistakes, apologize, and make amends. Next is vault. This one is about confidentiality. You don't share information or experiences that are not yours to share. You keep them in the vault. Integrity. You choose courage over comfort. You choose what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy. And you choose to practice your values rather than simply professing them. Non-judgment. I can ask for what I need, and you can ask for what you need. We can talk about how we feel without judgment. And finally, generosity. You extend the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, words, and actions of others. These 7 elements make an acronym, BRAVING, BRAVING. At the end of that conversation with my brother, I was surprised to find that not only had our relationship endured, but also my trust in him was stronger. Using those 7 elements of trust that Brené Brown describes, I better understand why that is. I knew he was coming from a place of integrity and wanting to really listen to what I had to say. For my part, I tried to keep my judgments at bay and to extend generosity to his words and intentions without sacrificing the values that were most important to me to express. And also, after many years of knowing one another and going through our ups and downs, the marble jar was pretty full. I didn't expect this emotionally fraught conversation to end with me feeling even closer to my brother, and yet it did. This experience gives me hope. Given how flawed I know I am, it gives me hope that the possibility of trust is still present. The truth is, trust isn't a one and done deal. It's never final. And all of us do this imperfectly. We add marbles to the jar and we lose marbles all the time. We are likely to disappoint others and ourselves. Being in relationship is risky, and this is why our intentionality matters. We can't eliminate the possibility that we will have our feelings hurt or that something important to us is not treated with as much care as we want, but we can make it more possible that trust can be built and maintained with the people in our lives. I don't know how the story of Ayel and her stepson ends. The listener is left to fill in the blanks. I don't imagine that it was the case that Ayel returned home and her stepson instantly fell into her loving embrace. Instead, I imagine that Ayel took small steps to put those marbles in the jar. She made him meals, offered encouragement, listened well, and slowly, over time, their love and trust grew strong. In our most intimate relationships and in community, let us be brave and move towards trust. Let us risk where we can, revealing our truest selves and vulnerable hearts. Let us take care with what is entrusted to us, and may we do so with abundant compassion and bountiful grace. So may it be. Beautiful. Thank you, choir. As we draw our service to a close, we extinguish the chalice and carry within us its healing flame, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the days and the week ahead. Please join me in saying our congregational mission statement. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve human need, and protect the earth, our home.